Hi, and welcome to Love, Life, and Lies. I'm your host, Kevin Evans, and today we have Brad Leland joining us again, best known as Buddy Garrity on Friday Night Lights. He's also had roles in some other films, including Hancock, Deepwater Horizon, and the HBO Max series Love and Lies. Welcome, Brad.
No, Love and Death.
Love and Death.
You're talking about your own show.
I know.
Okay, you should be.
Well, death is a lie, though, isn't it? Or not. Wow, we got deep real quick on that one.
Oh, I hadn't died yet. Well, we're dying right now. Okay,
maybe.
how's it feel? It's not a lie. It's true.
Okay.
If we're in the moment, and right now we're dead, so
It could be, well, it's definitely a final for all of us, right?
we're all going to walk on. We're going to cross over.
Fair enough.
Yeah, buddy. Go up.
So let's talk
Some
about...
of us are going down now.
Okay.
I like that.
I will not go there because that's too easy. I can't spike the ball on that one.
Are we starting again? Did we
No,
start?
we're rolling.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can't take that one back.
Okay. Yeah, this is the intro, though.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's just the same way last time.
I know. I'm not smart.
What do we do?
Well, because I flubbed the line. I flubbed the movies.
No, you didn't.
Well, no, I flubbed the movie title.
Oh.
The series
Well, yeah,
title.
that's right.
I don't watch TV a lot.
Sorry.
I don't watch TV
I
a lot.
know you never have. It's okay.
No, I watch sports and documentaries.
And you like to watch me in real life.
I don't know where to go with that one either. Anyways, let's talk Texas.
Okay.
So, as you know,
Yes.
because you always tell me I'm a damn Yankee. I'm from Detroit originally. I bounced around the country. Let's see, I went from Detroit to Raleigh.
I just lost all my Yankee friends and fans because you said that. Because you Yankees, that's just, oh,
No, that's fine.
sorry. No.
See, us Yankees can take a hit.
I stopped saying Yankee a long time ago because you were so offended.
It's hard to offend me. We're from Detroit. We don't get
True.
offended.
That's true. You don't get offended. You just pull out a gun and kill people. Go ahead.
Not anymore. I stopped an hour ago.
It's terrible.
So,
Go ahead. I'm
so I
sorry.
went from Detroit to Raleigh.
Yes.
Raleigh to Houston, spent a year and a half in Houston. Went from Houston to Hartford, Hartford to LA, and then LA here to Austin. And so I've been in Texas now for 21 years on this stint. And the cool thing about Texas, it's the only state that really has its own Texas pride, its own identity. Everybody who's from, well, not everybody, but most people from Texas, they just wear that as a badge of honor. And it pisses all the other states off, to be honest with you.
I think it probably does.
It does.
And I don't think everybody does that. I don't think they all certainly don't wear it when they leave Texas because many times people hate it. Like,
They ratchet it up more then.
Yeah. Like when I was in Paris, the last thing I wanted to do was for anybody to know I was a Texan because I would sort of check them out and see what they thought about it.
Well, they're French,
And
so.
many times they didn't like the Texans because some of them went over there and were loud and obnoxious and
Just like every other state they go to.
Well, yeah. But that's people from everywhere. It's just that you know how it is.
Well, Texas has a great tradition, pride, a lot of history. You got the Alamo.
Yeah.
It was, 6 different flags flew over the state?
Well,
That's why 6 Flags Amusement Park,
we
right?
sort of created the idea of a freedom and democracy. I mean, the Alamo was kind of the original statement. I mean, what was it? You kind of have to die. You know, the price of freedom is death, and that's been the motto of America.
It's the ultimate sacrifice.
That's where it started.
Well, it's interesting. So the Alamo, I have a different take on it. This is not going to be real popular, but being from the North.
Yeah.
So I went to visit the Alamo, and you get the history on it. Well, Texas did take it from the Mexicans first.
Yep.
But it's the slaughter that people were upset about. And the fact that Davy Crockett and the rest of the folks.
Those people from Tennessee and Alabama and all those people that came over.
Yeah, they came down.
They came to help us.
The Detroit
Louisiana people came.
No Detroit guys came.
No, they weren't. That was a little too far to go in those days.
Yeah.
And they didn't have horses.
Yeah, we're still working on the. We didn't invent the car. We invented the assembly line in
You were
Detroit.
building steel and skyscrapers and stuff, weren't you? What was happening in Detroit? Manufacturing,
Yeah, what time? The 1800s?
textiles.
Well, they got it from the French. French were smart. I love that one. Detroit actually means détois. That's where it comes from, the French term, détois.
okay, so it's
the French were smart. So one smart thing they did is got rid of Detroit, or Michigan, basically. They said, forget this. You guys can have this one. We're out.
God.
Punched the ticket and left.
And
But
they came to Dallas.
yeah, a lot of people are coming down.
Well, Dallas, the French traders sort of started Dallas in a way. French fur traders back in the late 1800s came down the Trinity River. We're way off track. But we're talking about Texas. Yeah, we're
talking about the identity of Texas.
Yeah,
because Texas, Texas pride, the Lone Star State. Again, it's the one state that really has its own identity, and most of the people wear it pride outside of New York, but it's New York City kind of thing, and that's a whole different animal.
Is it just because it's the largest state besides Alaska? I mean, Alaska's it's certainly the largest state by far, but it's the population and what's happening there is much more limited to what's happening here. Texas is. I can't sit here and name off all of the resources that it provides for the entire nation, but it's gigantoid what we actually produce just in this state that covers the whole nation.
Well, it's like the Wild West too has reputation in Texas, but and the beef, man, fantastic, cows, oil.
I mean, the economics here, that's why they say we could exist without the rest of the United States, because we have all of the resources that we need.
And sometimes you guys act like it too.
Well, yeah.
Now you've been...
Quit saying you guys. I don't represent...
Okay, y'all. Is that better?
Well, yeah.
Okay, y'all.
Okay, y'all's better, but I'm not going to be political.
Y'all.
Just because Texas is the largest state and the greatest state in the union, the best state in the union, and the only one that could secede, and the only one with the best people, and they need to all stop moving here. There's way too many. They're trying to change this place. They're not going to. So other than that, I have no opinion.
So you're brought up. You were born and raised pretty much. You were born and raised pretty much in Texas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you spent a small time in Japan, and went to Texas Tech.
Yes.
And so you have a pretty good feel on the history of Texas and its strengths. And one of the cool things about Texas, which blows me away, and I've not seen this anywhere else when I've lived around the country, is high school sports. And the size of the stadiums, they have reserved parking, service to the seats is amazing. And high school sports here is put on a pedestal.
It is.
And you played football.
Yes.
What was your experience there? I mean, at that time, that was back in the 70s.
Yeah, that was in the 70s, and it was still big. But, every little town had their own thing. And, in these communities, and that's why so many people have learned about what those sports and communities mean through that show, through Friday Night Lights, is that, excuse me, the town and the community would come together that one night, no matter what the sport was, no matter where you were in the world. And the thing about Texas is we have so many more high schools than everybody. I mean, everything's bigger. Yeah, it is. We have more high schools than any place in the country except California. They have one more high school than we do. And I forgot the number, but it's a gigantic number. And yet... California has sports that we don't have here in Texas, although they're starting to float here. There's lots of big schools now where people are moving in, and so they do have a lacrosse team. They have a skeet shooting team. All these various things that they have in California. They don't have a surfing team probably yet here, but what you will find in these especially affluent communities where people are moving in throughout Texas, they're bringing their sports there. These kids... we have 50,000 more high school football players in Texas than they do in California, and they have one more high school than we do. It's insane.
But even the high school, the Friday night games, for those who have never been to one, it's mind-blowing for the first time you go there. Again, private parking, and not private parking, but reserved parking. You have to have a parking pass for some of these parents. Season tickets. Reserved seats. Now, I know at Vandergrift here, which is the local high school, here they introduce service to the seats where you can actually order the food and they bring it to your seats. You're literally talking almost professional football teams on a small scale. And I forget what the stadiums hold, 40,000, 50,000 fans, some of them?
Some can, yeah. Some can.
That's mind-blowing.
The biggest, newest ones can. And some of these communities are all affluent. These people are moving in. They want school systems, and there's a great model for these now, where the community and the school is it's a very much tight community full of working professional families who want their children to go to regular schools, public schools, where they have these activities for boys and girls of every sport, every kind of thing that a kid can do extracurricular in school. I mean, you can be on any kind of team now, and it's well organized and it's diverse because you have people moving to these big cities in Texas, but they're moving here from everywhere. So they're bringing with them all of those things. Like, for so long, we didn't even really have soccer in Texas. It was in other parts of the United States, but it wasn't really here. And so now, we have lacrosse here. We have everything here. And then the big schools where there's affluent neighborhoods. So, but high school sports, I think, are vital. I love them. They're fun to go to. To me, they're almost as fun to go to as probably as more fun to go to than college sports live, and certainly more than pro. I watch all three, but I prefer watching high school football games to college, unless it's just a giant college playoff game of a couple of my favorite colleges or something like that. But high school football games are so exciting, and they're so from the heart, and the kids, it's still a team sport, and it's all about the passion of the night, and it's the parents, and it's the whole pageantry, it's the music, it's the bands, and living in Allen, I've gone up in the press box all the time, and I'm up there in the VIP and taking these photos with the phone of the marching band in Allen. Well, it's the largest marching band in the entire world.
Really?
Yes. There's 900 kids.
Allen?
In Allen. And people go, no, it's not. I said, here, look at it. The band takes up the entire 100-yard football field. There's a band guy standing on the whole football. And then they march. They can't go very far because how far can you go when you take up the whole field? But it's unbelievable. And so they look at the stadium and they look at these bands and then they look at these teams and what they're dressed in and how many fans are there, and they just can't believe it's high school football. And it's not the only place that they have it. It's in, it's in many states, and it's not that high school. When I would not be arrogant enough or suppose for a moment that Texas high school football is any better or bigger than Louisiana, than Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, on and on, California. There's great football players and great athletes in all the states, in pockets. We just happen to be the largest state with the most schools and the most kind of promotion of that ideal sort of, not as much big cities, but even in the small cities, you just have sort of a layout of what life's like. There's the football game and there's the thing and there's and in lots of places, the population just doesn't work that way because it's more urban or it's so country, they just can't gather up like that,
But the energy in Texas is different for high school football than other states. Having lived around, I've never seen anything like it that exists in Texas. And I've lived in California.
Yeah, it's not.
You got 4 large cities here in Texas. We're talking Houston, San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas. Those are 4 largest cities in the U.S. So you have that natural draw on. And of course, there's great athletes all across the spectrum. But the parents here put a lot more pressure on their kids as well, because you have the select sports as well, which is highly competitive, and a lot of that in Texas.
Oh, yeah. These poor kids. You got to pick your sport when you're a baby. It's horrible.
Well, the parents pick the sport for you.
Well, or the parents, and then that's all you can do the whole time, and your parents have to fork out so much money to go to special. I mean, when I was growing up, I got to play every sport my whole life. I didn't have to choose. I didn't have to drop any sport till I was a senior in high school. I played all 4 sports and others until my senior year when I tore up my knee. I was like, okay, well, I can't play basketball and football anymore, but I can play golf still.
Well, the parents are putting so much pressure on some of the kids, too. So my son played in select travel basketball. He was the victory cigar because I was team mom for it. We all know the reasons why. And what I saw there was some of the parents would actually hold their kids back a year to make them look better, which is sad because the kid didn't need to be held back because of academics. The parents wanted them to do that so they looked better going to college.
Oh, man.
That's how...
I don't like that.
I don't like it at all either.
No.
And it's sad.
Yes.
Also, you got into a bunch of money into that arena. When you talk select basketball, for example, parents would say, well, what are you going to do for my kid? Do we get uniforms? Do we get expense money? I'm going, what are you talking about? I mean, we raise money for uniforms and shoes and things like that, and we pay some travel expenses, but these people actually wanted a per diem on top of it, some of them. And they would leave the team to go to the bigger, better deal. And it was sad because you're training these kids because they're not going to be in the pros.
Right.
Some of them will make college, maybe D2.
Right.
And what are you teaching them? And that's the sad part, and that's the dirty side when you start getting into the highly competitive nature of high school sports or even junior high sports at that age.
Here's the question. That is something I was talking to somebody recently. The idea that, look, we give, it's not participation trophies, but these kids, we make a big deal out of it when they, they're 12 years old and there's a banquet and they have little cheerleaders and we give the best prize out and we have a little video of the kid running the touchdown and we celebrate it and they're only 12 and they need to hold that till later when they win the state championship and later when they're, we don't need to give them all of that right now because we need to save that for later. Oh, that little girl, she can't go on a date yet because she needs to go to the prom when she's later. So, because you're using all that stuff up that you don't need to do that too young. I can remember parents saying that, don't do that too young because then you won't have anything in the future to do.
Right.
But guess what? Some of these kids are never going to get to do it again. The only little bit of time they're going to get to play football and get that trophy and be part of it is then.
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with them having a little after party and showing them with the cheerleaders. And, because I got to be that. They got to be part of a team and understand it. So I'm not about participation trophies except for one thing. As long as they give the kid who's the fastest that trophy.
Right.
And the team that won the thing actually had the most score, they get first place.
Right.
Everybody got a trophy for being a part of the league.
You get rewards when you win.
Yeah.
And that's where team sports is great because it teaches kids to push themselves beyond what they think they can do.
Yes.
If it's done correctly, being part of a team, working together, not being independent. And that's when it's a beautiful thing. Participation trophies are a whole nother discussion, and I'm against those at all costs because you're not teaching the kid anything of how to grow and better himself because he knows he's going to get some little trinket.
Well, it's okay, though. Like I said, as long as the kids that are the best get rewarded other than the participation trophies. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. The best and the fastest.
Then those participation trophies, then it's okay, right? I mean, because...
And that's where Texas is good because when it comes to especially the high school football, it's so competitive. There's no participation trophy there. Those coaches are badass hard on those kids.
Yeah.
And those kids need it, some of it, in order to be competitive. Unfortunately, I think some coaches may take it a little too far and push those kids a little.
But the good ones don't.
Right.
The good ones, the ones that win, they don't. The ones that win are the great coaches, and those are the coaches. Yes, they push them. Yes, in a way, they're hard, but their discipline is different. They make those boys believe because what I've learned this not only about college coaches. I mean, I think it goes all the way up, but because they all start at a certain level. High school coaches are not paid enough to do the job they do. And let me say something. The reason they do the job is because they love those boys, period. They would not do it if they did not love that sport and they love those boys. And that's the reason that they don't do it for the money. They do it. And the ones that are doing that are not those big old bruisers. Let's see who the tough boys are, and we're going to get out there and kick some ass. Those are not the coaches. I mean, those used to be some of the coaches, and I'm sure they still exist, but that's not the coaches that win. That's not the coaches that are good. The coaches that are good are all mini Landrys. They're all guys that they love their players and their players love them, and they get total respect without being big old redneck some bitches. And the toughest kid is not always the best kid, and the strongest kid is not always the best kid. But the smartest kid probably usually is the best kid, because if he's smart, then he's going to be able to do the physical part too.
Well, but good coaches are leaders.
Yes.
And they're few and far between. I think that's a lost art too. When you bring Landry and some of those, Bear Bryant kind of coaches, those are a different animal. Those are true leaders. Yeah.
He's a true modern leader. Unfortunately, we lost him, but God, what a brilliant, hilarious, wonderful football coach. And he loved his players, and he loved the game, and he loved life.
And the funny thing is when you hear a coach loves his players, doesn't mean he's easy on them.
No.
They actually do care for their well-being, and they do push them really hard.
Yeah.
Because they help them achieve things that they probably otherwise couldn't achieve. And that's what great coaches do to get the best out of them. Not for themselves, glory. They want that kid to be the future. Until you're in the NFL, your goal is to get them to produce the best they possibly can to get them ready for the next level potentially and to be good human beings.
Yeah.
And good coaches or great coaches actually do both. They actually teach those kids how to become great human beings.
Yeah. And it's through example, usually. There's probably, in many cases, the less words, the better. I mean, they just lead by example. My best coaches were not necessarily the most verbose coaches or the most rah-rah coaches. They had some of it, but, the head coaches that I had, which I was fortunate to have great head coaches and, win city championships and win state championships and all that kind of stuff. But they didn't have to say much, and they didn't yell.
That's what leaders do, though.
Yeah.
People follow, players and people in general follow leaders. Mm-hmm. It's earned. It's not a title. It's like, that's a manager.
That's an example. They follow the example. So recently, Coach John Clark died, infamous coach from Plano, Texas. State championships. He was our state championship coach at the time. Revered coach in Texas for years and years. He just recently died. I think he was 88 or 9. And he was like a mini Landry. He was a Plano. He'd been in other coaching situations around Jacksboro in Texas. But he was one of those guys that through, 25, 30 years, decades of players, he was so respected. He was one of those guys that when he died and when the funeral, all the players and other people that had known him his whole life, which got around and stuff, no one could ever think of one thing that he had ever said or done that was anywhere near out of line or not respectful or not. It was like he deemed so much respect with just so few words, just by the way he conducted his life. He was just one of those just examples of a person that just doesn't ever mess up. Pretty interesting.
Well, those great coaches too, it's their life. It's their passion. And like your passion is acting. But these coaches are at a whole different level. They just view the films and they're, and you said it the best is they set it by example for their players. What's the most inspirational thing a coach has done for you or said to you that stands out in your mind?
It was John Clark. And it was when I tore up my knee and I knew I wasn't going to be able to play anymore. It was my senior year. And I was already in the theater and the choir, so I was already doing that stuff and playing basketball and golf. And so I was involved in stuff, but football is still, I'm going to play, and hopefully I might play in college. The dream of being a professional football player was not over, although it was pretty evident that I would, had a long way to go for that. But you're still, when you're a kid, you think, So when I screwed up my knee and I went into the office to talk to him, and I was crying. I was like, Coach Clark, I'm not going to be able to play. I'm going to have to quit because my knee's not going to come back. And I was crying. I was like, I can't believe I've never quit anything in my life, and I have to quit the team in all these years and blah, 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 blah. And he's like, Brad, now, son, it's going to be all right. Let me tell you something. Now, I understand your knee, I understand. He says, but football, now, do you think you're going to play football? You think you're going to play pro football? I was like, well, probably not, but, I'd like to. But do you think you're going to? Well, probably not. Well, do you want to play college football? I said, well, yeah, I'd like to. And he goes, well, realistically, you'd I could probably get you a scholarship to a small school and you could probably play football and stuff, but you're not gonna. And I said, so is that what you were? I said, well, you know. He goes, look, I've seen you in the plays and I've seen you in choir and all of that. Church, you sing in my church and blah, blah, blah. He said, you know, Brad, don't worry about it, man. You're a pretty good actor. You just, why don't you just go and do the spring play and go be an actor? And I stopped being so upset. And he said, and you know that locker in there, right in there with your name on it in the varsity room, that locker that you earned right in there? And I said, yes, sir. And he said, I'll tell you what, if you change your mind, that locker's going to be in there waiting for you.
That's pretty cool.
That's the kind of man he was. So not only did he point me in the exact right direction, but he gave me, you see, that's real special because I know what it took to get my name in that varsity locker room. And it was there for me for the rest of my life. It's still there for me.
Really?
Well, isn't it?
In your heart, right?
Yeah. And that's that man. That's what kind of coach he was. He knew he not only told me what to do to go be an actor, he told me how to get over it.
And that's what we were talking earlier. True coach, the great ones, prepare their players for life.
Yeah.
And that's the impressive thing. If they just care about wins and losses, then they're doing a disservice to those kids.
Right.
And so when my son was playing select basketball, we had this player on the team, probably the most talented kid I've seen at that age at that time. And I didn't have a lot of experience, but this kid was just a natural beast. He was, and I just saw him on the basketball side. I didn't see his love and passion for football. And we were playing a team in San Antonio, our arch rivals at the time, and we were finally taking him down. But the kid mouthed off to the referee, and he got a technical. The coach yanked him out. This was the best player on our team.
Oops.
Yep. And sat him out and said, "You're out the rest of the game."
Ooh.
And the mom was fine with that because he was preparing them for the next level, teaching them not to lose his cool and everything. And I admire that. And not a lot of coaches would do that, especially in the select basketball. And I admire the coach for doing that because he's teaching them how to compete at a higher level, not to lose his cool, but also there's consequences for your actions.
And were the parents, you said the parents were
Parents are fine with that.
Well, see, then that's a good coach. And that's good parenting. Because you had those parents come back at him. That's the problem.
Well, that's it. You have to have two sides, the parents and the coach. And there's too many parents that are...
Oh, yeah. They're coaching. Well, parents need to get out of the coaching.
Well, they're micromanaging it, and you can't do that with the kids because what you do now is you teach these kids, if you don't like something, screw you, I'm on to the next deal. And that's doing a disservice to the kid. And I don't understand why parents do that. It's about their ego.
Yeah.
It's not about the kid. It's their ego.
This whole thing about living your life vicariously through your kid because you never got to play and you never got to, and my kid's going to be a star because I never was. And I just don't get it. And I mean, do you have kids to make a little puppet you that's better than you? Is that what you have kids for? I don't know.
I think some of them are.
Well,
they use their kids to live.
They have a self-confidence problem.
Yeah, they
self-image.
Oh, they definitely do. I've watched coaches at the Select League basketball get cheat like there's no tomorrow. As team mom, I was responsible team manager. I call it team mom.
Oh, yeah.
I was team mom was pretty close.
Well, you're momish.
Yeah.
When you have your wig on.
Kind of, yeah. Well, the high heels throws it off there. It's hard to find something size 12.
That really makes you tall.
Yeah, 6'4".
You're tall regular.
Yeah, 6'4", wearing heels, not a good thing.
7-foot trans bald sort of madness.
I think you got a man crush on me.
I did just then. That was weird.
Check, please.
Stop that. Keep talking.
So,
what was that? It was an interlude of no lewd. There was no lewd involved in that interlude. That was mind chemical. It wasn't even inspired by anything other than reality.
When's your next therapy session?
It starts in a minute. Where's our
You're late for it. I can tell you that right now. You're late for next therapy session.
Where's our 28-year-old man with a mind? Where's our producer? He's sitting over here, and he has a mind left. He's looking at us going, what are you doing?
God.
Y'all are off track.
But,
okay, go back.
So I've watched these parents, these coaches, cheat. They bring in older kids, and part of my responsibility was to protest the kids that were illegal, meaning they were older. And I remember Jermaine O'Neal used to play with the Pacers. He got busted for cheating by bringing in kids 2 years older in a national tournament. And
Wow.
And that was in Louisiana. We ran into them in Orlando. And me, being the type of person that can't hold his tongue, walked up to him and says, "Hey, Jermaine, bringing 16-year-olds this time?"
Oh, my gosh.
Apparently that didn't sit well with him.
And you didn't get beat up.
No, he could have snapped me like a twig.
Yeah.
And I would have deserved it.
Yeah, but you got away.
But
Did you run? or
even
just-
the professional basketball players were cheating as a coach. So what are we doing here with that? But I guess that's why Texas, that's at the select level. But in Texas, though, I'm just blown away at how competitive they are. It really is. It's a whole different animal. And I'm talking like all the different levels, golf, even cheerleading. That's really becoming a big sport right now. Now talk about out of control parents. I would assume cheerleading sits there. I don't know. I don't have any experience in there.
I've been to them. I've seen the cheerleading competitions. I've had cheerleaders. Both my daughters were cheerleaders. My girlfriends were cheerleaders.
Were they select level? Or?
I have a whole bevy of cheerleaders right now that follow me around and lead cheers, and
The Brad Leland cheer? Go, Brad. Go, Brad. Yeah, leave it there.
cheer.
You have cheerleaders for Brad now.
Cheer used to be a laundry soap.
Still is, I think.
The Tide is laundry soap. We know what that means.
I know, but you're changing the subject of
Sorry,
having the
go
Brad
back,
Leland
go back,
cheerleaders.
go
No,
back,
the
go
Brad Leland cheerleaders. You got off that subject real quick.
Yep, I did.
So your daughter's
It's a harem.
would be
A
here.
harem of
Be here, her, right?
no harem of women. A harem. You remember the term?
I know what a harem
You
is.
know what a harem is?
I've never experienced one, but
I haven't either, and I don't have one. That was off the.
that's subject number 2 for your therapy session.
Okay. Are you writing this down? I
No.
hope so.
No.
I need to know what I need to.
That's why we
remember.
record it,
Okay.
so I can remember what I
Go
said.
back and listen. I'm going to let my psychiatrist listen to this and help me, sir.
If he does,
Please help me, please.
I would take care of all your affairs before you give that tape to him, all right?
Help me, Rhonda.
Make sure to take care of.
Help me, Rhonda.
So
Where we going?
They're not going to professional sports here in Texas.
Yes.
They have some great. I mean, the Cowboys. I think that's the most recognized
Sports
team
team
logo in the world.
Oh, by far, and the most the most expensive and most valuable sports team by far in the entire world.
And currently, the
They're
most.
worth like it's $3 billion or some ridiculous number. $2.5 billion, I think, more than any giant soccer team or anything. It's ridiculous.
I just hate that they coined the term America's team because I didn't vote for it. Smart marketing. Smart marketing.
It was voted for long ago, and it's been there, and it shall be there, and henceforth from now until eternity. Oh God, amen.
Weren't they the first team to bring in cheerleaders?
Yes,
The first football team to bring in.
absolutely. Scantily clad ones. It's the same, it's about the same time Southwest Airlines started the same thing. We had Texas, we had Southwest Airlines, and the girls wore tight little, real small hot pants and tall leather white go-go boots and little midriffs that were just very, very low-cut chiffon midriffs with little bellies showing. And let's see, and they were gorgeous, and they were stewardesses, and they would give you free drinks, free beer and peanuts on all Southwest flights, and it was $15 to go anywhere. It only went 4 places, but it was great to go from Lubbock to Dallas to Houston to Austin, no, to San Antonio. That's what we had in the beginning, and then they added Austin years later. But for a long time, that's the only place it went, and it was $15. And we were mad in college when they raised it to $19 each way to fly on Southwest. You got free peanuts and free drinks, and the stewardesses, they weren't flight attendants yet, but because we had not become gender people, and so then we were just happy to pay the $19, even though we thought it was ridiculous. It was $15. You're raising it to $19 to fly to Dallas? Come on. What's wrong with you?
Wow. There's a lot of
what it was
anger
like.
there.
That's what it was like.
Except when you talked about the flight attendants, your eyes were closed. That was a little too
They
passionate.
were fantastic. Those thigh-high white go-go boots, dude. Stewardesses. Can you imagine? We smoked. You're smoking on an airline. Everybody is smoking, and nobody even smells smoke.
I totally
Can you
forgot about
imagine?
that. I don't
It's
even remember
horrible.
that. I don't remember that.
Oh my God!
You're older than I am, though, so.
Can you imagine sitting? I can't even stand cigarette smoke. And in those days, we just breathed it in the family car, family vacation. You're driving along and you're smoking. Everybody's breathing in smoke. Gross.
God, it's, well, but Texas, you got cowboys, you got.
We got cash. That smell of in Lubbock, it's called looters because that's the feedlot out there. The people's names are
Looters? I've never heard of that one.
Well, because the people's name is looters, so we call the feedlot looters, or we did growing up. So we thought the actual smell itself, we thought the smell was looters. Like if you smelled honeysuckle, you'd go, "Oh, that's honeysuckle." Well, when we smelled cow stuff, it was looters. Oh, I smell looters. And so my sister went to Illinois, and she was at a cheerleading camp with a bunch of girls from all over the country, and they had a feedlot nearby, and the same smell wafted over the small town. And my little sister goes, "Ooh," and, with a little Texas accent in front of all these little Yankee girls. There's Yankee again. She says, "Oh, I smell looters." And they all looked at her like, "What?" She goes, "That smell, that's looters." And they're like, "No, that's cow smoke." And she goes, "Yeah, that's what that smell is called." And they're like, "Are you out of your mind? Are you weird, Texas little girl?" And then she came back home and she told my mom, she was like, "Mom, those stupid Yankee girls didn't even realize what looters were." And my mother goes, "What?" She goes, "Well, we smelled it at cheerleading camp, and I told them that was looters, and they said I was crazy." And my mom goes, "Well, honey, that's the name of the people that own the feedlot. That's not the actual smell."
That's funny. That's funny. That's funny.
So yes, that smell will waft over parts of Texas at certain times of the
Texas has
day.
got Buc-ee's. You can't go wrong with Buc-ee's.
We do have Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's
I
rocks.
but I won't go in there. No
Why?
way. I'm not going to pull into that. Dude, there's hundreds of people. I don't want to go any Walmart, Costco, Buc-ee's, Sam's. I don't go in big stores. I like boutiques. You see.
But it's Buc-ee's. You can't be a Buc-ee
I'm
hater.
not going to go in Buc-ee's. There's
Don't be a
things
Buc-ee's
I
hater.
would like to buy things in there.
I know.
I would go in there and buy so many things. There's no way I'm going to walk in that place. They want you to spend massive amounts of money, and you will.
Yeah, the Buc-ee nuggets are great.
Oh, my God.
They're great.
There's no way. Not walking in
Kolaches are good,
there.
too.
No, sorry, Buc-ee's. I mean, I'll advertise for you if you give me money, but I'm not walking in your damn store.
Yeah, Buc-ee nuggets are really good.
Sorry, dude. Buc-ee nuggets. That sounds weird.
They're like caramel. There's caramel corn,
Hey,
basically.
baby.
The beaver nuggets,
Hey, baby,
Buc-ee
you
nuggets,
want
something
some
like that.
Buc-ee nuggets? Yeah.
Beaver nuggets. Whoa, whoa. Gotta be careful of that.
A beaver nugget. Ooh.
Right. How about music? Great traditions of music.
I like music.
No, but Texas music, you got Willie Nelson, you got Steve Ray Vaughan, you have ZZ Top. Keep going on the list. Who else? Who's your
One
favorite?
of the things I like to talk about is since I grew up in Lubbock, and Joe Ely. I first saw Joe Ely. I was in 4th grade, and Joe Ely was in 7th grade, and he had his first combo in Lubbock, and they were playing in the little. In those days, it wasn't a mall, it was a shopping center. And so they'd have a shopping center with 4 or 5 little stores in it, and a drugstore, and a supermarket, and a clothing store, and a Kresge's, and all these little different types of things. And it was the beginning of shopping centers. And there would be, on Saturdays, they'd do a Bluebird parade, and the Boy Scouts would put out some cookies and a thing. And this was in the 60s. And so the little combo started up when the Beatles started up, when then everybody had a little combo. And Joe Ely was in one of the first combos I ever saw, they were called the Coachman, and we were on our skateboards. First time we ever had skateboards, and we were on skateboards, and we're going through the little shopping center, and there was this combo playing. And I was in 4th grade, and it was Joe Ely's first little band. And then later on in college, Joe Ely was playing, of course, at our club at Fat Dogs, and then that Joe moved to Austin with Jimmy Dale Gilmore, Butch Hancock, all those other Lubbock guys. Who else? The Maines brothers. All those guys were from Lubbock, and they went to Austin and created that entire Austin sound of music that became that Texas sound, which is that whole, it's not a rockabilly, but it's that.
It's like a Texas blues kind of, yeah.
And that all came from Lubbock. All those guys were around the same age, and they moved to Austin, and that's when all of that happened.
Yeah, Austin used to be just a great place for music. It's changed now. They still want to say the live music capital of the world.
It still is. I mean, come on.
Yes, no, it's still, but
Yeah.
it's changed from what it was, obviously.
I don't know. I mean, it's still every kind of diverse music in the world that it could be. And you know, when Stevie used to play at Fat Dogs, it was crazy. Nobody in the world knew who he was. I mean, they knew who he was in Austin. And since he started in Dallas, there were people in the music business that definitely knew who Stevie was. But he was when I was managing the club in Fat Dogs in Lubbock, it was $2 to see Stevie Ray Vaughan, and lots of people didn't know who he was. And he played on a Sunday night. He played 3 45-minute sets, and it was just the three of them, Stevie and James and the drummer, anyway, Chris. And then they had one road guy, and there was 4 of them. So the one road guy, James, and then they would leave Austin after their Saturday night gig in Austin, because that's where they were based. And the Austin people knew him, and they were all on everything in those days. Those guys were druggy and drunk and everything else. And they would drive from Austin to Lubbock, and they would get there about 5 or 6. And I was always freaking out because I wanted them to be there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and do sound check and get loaded in. And, you know, I was always worried because they were always late, and I could never understand it because I was 25 years old and I was a nervous wreck and I didn't understand. These guys, I can't even believe they drove from Austin after being up all night on drugs and then driving all the way to Lubbock to do a Lubbock show and doing 3 45-minute sets for $300.
What year was that?
That was 1976, 8, right in there.
Okay.
And so $300 split between those 4 guys, the road manager and the 3 musicians. And they played 3 45-minute sets, hardcore. It cost $2 to get in. Sometimes I'd have 120 people in there, 150. And by the 3rd set, it's school night on Sunday night. Those kids are gone. There'd be 20 people on the 3rd set, and Stevie didn't mind. He'd get up there, he'd play that 3rd set like it was going out of style. I used to give him super glue because he'd knock his calluses off, and he'd drop that super glue in those calluses and put them back on. And I was like, "What are you doing? You don't have to play the 3rd set. We'll give you a bottle of whiskey and we'll drink and whatever you want." You know, he goes, "No, man, I'm here. I'm going to play that 3rd set." And you know, it was unbelievable. And then watching him become an international famous star right after that. Texas, man.
I did not know who Stevie Ray Vaughan was when I was covering rock and roll back in Detroit, or the paper, right? So I get this phone call that said he's playing in Ann Arbor. Would you guys like to interview him? So I said, I went to my managing editor. I said, "You want to interview him?" He goes, "Hell yes." My managing editor was a student of music, played the guitar, played a Gretsch, in fact. So we jumped in the car, go to Ann Arbor, and I got to photograph the entire show. We were hanging out with him backstage before the show. And this is about 2 weeks after rehab. And he would forget the answer to the question halfway through. And I'm going, how does this guy even play guitar? He seemed a little out of it. When I shot that show, and I shot a lot of shows during that time period, I was freaking blown away. I have never seen anything like that in my entire life. It was a whole new level of being a messiah. Few people had that. Maybe Hendrix had it. I had to say Michael Jackson, Prince, you know, those kind of levels of visionary. But when he slapped that guitar on, he was a whole different human being.
Yes.
And it blew me out of the fucking water. I had never seen anything like that before nor since, because as a photographer, I was there in front of the front row. So I'm leaning on the stage and I'm zooming in on his eyes, and I can see his eyes. He disappeared into his guitar.
Mm-hmm. You did.
And I just feel blessed to have had the opportunity to not just see him play, but to meet him and actually capture some of those moments.
Yeah.
And it is probably the highlight of anything that I've probably ever did in the photography world.
And wasn't he a kind, sweet fella?
He was
so sweet.
He was just so laid back.
He was, man. He was cool.
He really was.
You know what their writer said? A bottle of Jack Daniels. No, a bottle of Wild Turkey 101, a case of Budweiser, a bottle of Jose Cuervo, and then a little bunch of little. They'll be like how could you say these little party favors? They're little pieces of paper, but they got little twisty ends. They're like little. I don't know. There's little poppers or something. You throw them on the ground and they pop. Or something. I
don't think you threw them on the ground.
They look like little white things with little twisties. I never knew, but my guys gave them those. There was some party candy or something. Whatever went with it.
That's why he was in rehab, right? But yeah, Stevie was a whole different animal, and I'm just so blessed to have experienced.
Oh man!
And it was an experience. It wasn't just a show. It was an experience.
It was. So that's Texas. Yeah, we got a lot of music.
Well,
here.
I mean ZZ Top too. ZZ Top. That was a good. They had a nice brand. That's like a good Texas blues.
Yeah.
And they were solid. Trying to think who else. Willie Nelson. He's a whole different animal. He's a whole different animal.
Lucas sounds exactly like him.
I've never met him. Have you met Willie?
Yeah, I've met him. I mean, I went out there and
He's pretty laid back.
Oh yeah,
He seems like a cool
went
dude.
out and played golf years and years ago. Got to play golf out there at his little golf course. He's got one right there.
Yeah, it's a nice hole, isn't it?
Yeah.
They do a big 4th of July party every year, don't they?
This was 30 years ago. He was still playing in those days. Well, he had some funny rules. I can't remember what they were, but they were awesome rules. And some of them were written on the tee box before the hole. They were Willie rules, you know.
Well, okay.
You can only take 3 mulligans here, or
mulligans.
If you hit it in the water, it's a hole in one. I mean, I don't remember what they were, but they were fun. Yeah, but I barely met. Of course, the first time I met him was at Nick's after Fat Dogs. So I was managing Fat Dogs in Lubbock, and then I moved up. I went to Dallas and started managing Nick's, and that's when I got to experience all the greatest musicians in the world, including Willie. Mm-hmm. And his bus pulled up, and we had him there. And first time I met him, I went out to meet him in the bus to get the road manager to do the contract or whatever it was, or tell him the time or whatever. And all they had to do was open that bus doors, and it was like, whoa. It was right there on Greenville Avenue, right there across from the Granada Theater, Aw Shucks and all that, right in the middle of Greenville, the most populated area. And Willie's bus is sitting out there, and you open the doors, like, entire Greenville Avenue of Dallas is covered in giant, wonderful smoke. So,
they also had one of the, big center for music here was Armadillo World Headquarters here in Austin.
Yep.
When did they stop really playing?
I don't know, Kevin. I believe. It wasn't that long ago, was it?
Well, sure. The big. God, everybody used to go through there.
Yeah.
And they kept it up for a long time.
Yeah, it was forever.
Did you ever go see a show there?
Oh yeah, when we were in college and stuff, for sure. All my buddies down here at UT, we'd come to Austin. That's somewhere. That's where you went. In those days. Because I wasn't really here that much in between. When I was in college here in the 70s, with a lot here in the 70s when my buddies were here and stuff, so I'd be in Austin a lot. And then I wasn't here again until we did Friday Night Lights. So there was a big gap in there for me being in Austin much. Just occasional visits.
Yeah, you've been coming to Austin quite a bit.
Yeah. At one time, Texas was the third coast. That's what we called it, because we had more production here than any of the other states outside of New York and California. So then it sort of faded away because we stopped having the incentives here in Texas to bring the films here. And they started having the great incentives in New Mexico, Louisiana, and Georgia, specifically, where they started building huge film communities and television communities by giving them state incentives for the producers to come there, to where it got to the point where a lot of these states were giving them 25 to 35% just to say, if you'll shoot the picture here, if it's $1 million picture, we'll give you 35% up front just to shoot it here.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Gigantic incentives. And Texas didn't keep up with it because, of course, it didn't feel... Lots of times it was politically incorrect here. So we had some problems with some people who thought that the Texas film industry, that it was represented by movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
You were in that movie, weren't you?
Yeah, but I'm not trying to cut down that movie. I'm just saying.
No pun intended.
But you've got movies like Giant and Tender Mercies, and these incredible award-winning Oscar films that I could go on and on about all the great movies that were made here, and then they pull up something like, well, we don't want to be Texas represented by Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Hey, come on, give me a break. It places in the heart. So So for a while we didn't have incentives. They're coming back now. So the Texas lost the third coast. It became Louisiana, Georgia, and New Mexico. And California got its back. California didn't get the business back till they had to give incentives to their own state to pull their business back because everybody left California. They wanted to go in what they call the hinterlands. They wanted to go into the hinterlands and work because California became this thing. So they had to give incentives to their own people to come back and work there. So, but Texas, we started sucking hind tit. And we ain't no longer the third capital of Texas. And what happened was, and then suddenly all these a bunch of these film types and all these Californians, and he moved back in here, and all of a sudden the laws changed back. And suddenly we had a little lobby, and suddenly we got about another $20-30 million in incentives back here in Austin or back here in Texas to make movies and now we're back. We're not the third coast yet, but we're going to have a lot of work here now because they did the good work, and people like Heather, who was our chairman of Beyond the Lights.
She's a great person.
A great person. People like her, and all the people that followed her with the Texas Film Commission, and all the people that lobbied at the state capitol, all of my friends, and yours included, who went to the state capitol and tried to express our opinion about the fact that film and television and every kind of art should be done here, and it should be supported by everyone here, because since we have everything here in Texas, let's have that too. Let's have it back because we have all the resources. We have the employees. We have the locations. We have, we have everything here. That's why people are moving here. That's why they're leaving where they're leaving, because it has to do with taxes, and it has to do with, quality of life. It has to do with, it's just... It's not about bragging about Texas. It's about a quality of life, which you can find here and you can't find in some other places. And some people don't like this. Some people don't like it's way too hot here in the summer. And some people don't like it's, we don't have any cold winters and snow. But we got some snow, and we got East Texas and Piney Woods, and we got the coast, and we got West Texas, and it's like, it's 3,000 feet above sea level. It's beautiful in West Texas. It's flat. You can see hundreds of miles, but it's big sky. It's beautiful.
Well, the Galveston beaches aren't that great.
No, but we do have a Gulf. And people don't know this, but in the old days, and I'm not talking about back in the 1900s, I'm talking about back in the 1800s, early 1900s, Galveston was the place. People in New York would go to Galveston to the beach. It was like the party place. It was the gambling, fun beach place to go. Was Galveston, Texas, before they had the huge flood and all that kind of thing, and all those people were killed, and then they all started going to other places.
Yeah, I tell you, the painted ladies down there, those Victorian houses are beautiful. When they've brought those back. But Galveston's kind of cool. But it's not what it was for sure.
No, in our Texas beaches, you go south, and I remember when in college we used to go to South Padre, and we thought that was just the cleanest thing in the world. On the beach, we thought. But Texas beaches are much cleaner than they used to be. I think they're nice. It's just they're a lot better than they used to be. Let's put it that way. But it's not. You're not going to White Destin Beach in Florida.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah, Florida's got some badass beaches for sure. But it's Texas beaches.
But we still the whole point is we pretty much have everything here. Any kind of geographical location you want to live in. If you want piney woods, if you want a lake, if you want a river, if you want an ocean.
And some badass golf courses, too.
We got more golf courses than anybody. And, we got mountains if you want to live in them. If you want to go live out in the mountains, we got them.
Yeah, and then you got a lot of flat asphalt like Houston.
Yeah.
If you spit out the window.
Big old city, you can go to Houston.
Yeah, you spit out the window and it floods.
Yeah.
My God, 1 inch of rains in that city, they don't know how to drive. I'll say, yeah, Texas, when it snows here, rains, they don't know how to drive.
Mm-mm. No, they don't know how to drive anyway.
Well,
I've decided the most aggressive drivers in the world are in Dallas. They're all very important. They have to get there much quicker than everybody, and they'll do anything to get there.
You haven't driven Detroit, have you? It's kill or be killed.
New York, L.A., nothing's as aggressive and ridiculous as Dallas.
Yeah, they are pretty aggressive there.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
A lot of blondes and fake boobs up there.
Oh,
that's. Oh, but it's the attitude too. I don't mind. I don't mind blondes and fake boobs. I mean, I encourage it.
It is different. They're
it's the attitude. Different. It's the attitude. Some of that. That's the problem.
You hit on something there about Texas. The attitude in Austin, the attitude in Houston, the attitude in Dallas, the attitude in Lubbock, the attitude in Amarillo, the attitude in Tyler. Those are all very different.
Yep.
And that's interesting because
they're all Texas,
those regions.
But they're all Texas proud.
Yeah, they are Texas proud, and they all come back. The common denominator is that. But man, you talk about different cultures of people run those different cities, and yet they're Texans. And are all of them from the same Alamo, Tennessee, the original stock of Texas?
Oh, hell no.
No.
But you got the oil money in Houston, but you got the oil money in Dallas, but the oil money in Dallas is a little bit more snuddier than the ones in Houston. And then they all look at Austin going, what the hell is that city doing in Texas?
When you think about it, there's a lot of cowboys that are Democrats because their parents always were. Farmers and ranchers, a lot of them are solid Democrats from the old days, and they'll never change. I've noticed it. I mean, it's funny because nowadays, if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, that necessarily means that your life is going to be this way. Well, that's not necessarily true. Lots of times you might have a cowboy, a Texas cowboy, and his life is this way, and you might have a Louisiana cowboy, and his life is this way, and they're completely the same in their life, in their cowboy life, and they may be completely different parties. And they both think they're right, and both their lives are exactly the same. Everything they do is exactly the same, but they're in completely different parties. And it usually comes down from their daddy, from their daddy, from their daddy, from their daddy. They just stay Democrats forever because that's what their daddy was.
I think a lot of that goes to both parties a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Because that's
Both
the thing
parties.
ingrained.
Oh, yeah.
But, well, Mr. Leland, it's been a true pleasure.
Well, Mr. Evans, it has been. It's been fun.
It was fun talking to sports, talk some music, a little politics and everything.
Talking Texas.
Like I said, the state has definitely Texas proud. No other state like it with that belief. Again, I come from Detroit. We're proud of Detroit. How can we be proud of the Lions?
Well,
we can't.
I like that quarterback.
But I do too. But they've won one. They've won one playoff game since 1960. And you know the team they beat? Cowboys. Sorry, that's the only thing I got on you.
That's the only game the Cowboys have ever lost.
Playoff? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the only game they've ever lost.
Well, anyways, it was a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to let you say goodbye again with the favorite line from Friday Night Lights.
Do you want to go by with that one? Do we want to go full Texan with it? Hey, which Texas accent do you want? We got 4 distinct ones, right? We got 4 distinct Texas accents. Like, if you go to, like in East Texas over there, what you'll find over there is since it's piney woods and all that, and it's kind of like the deep South. You almost go Gomer Pyle with it because it's slower, it's hot over there. People seem a little more country, and they're friendly and they're happy. And then, because it's just deep. Piney woods, hot, and people are country and stuff. But if you go to West Texas, out there, the wind's blowing your way up high, up 3,000 feet above sea level, and it's big sky, and the wind's always blowing. The dust will blow up in your face. You kind of this stern look on your face because you're a cotton farmer and you're a rancher and you're out there on horses. And every once in a while you smile at somebody, you smile at them for just a second. You got to go right back because dust will blow up in your nose and up in your mouth, and you keep your eyes kind of squinting. And that's a West Texas accent. And then, Dallas in the North Texas is just kind of like my normal one. It's just faster. It's metropolitan because it's a big city and everything. It's faster than everything, but it's still Texas. You hear it and everything. But if you come down to Austin, what you'll hear down here is kind of it's almost a Lyndon Baines Johnson kind of a sound, because you see, this is where our legislature is. This is where our true Texans are. This is where the state of Texas, the capital of Texas is. And each and every word needs to be pronounced and understood here in this the Mecca, the capital, the south part of Texas. So which one of those accents would you like, sir? Which Texas accent?
I don't know. Spin a wheel.
Okay, I'm going to go with just the regular Friday Night Lights, sort of Buddy Garrity, sort of Kyle Chandler, sort of not Tim Riggins, the Canadian who can't do a Texas accent. Okay. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose.